Osceola County in Kissimmee, as they tell me how it's said. I was just here, Andy, I was just here recently. You have a wonderful LGBT Democratic caucus here in Osceola County, and I came, I believe it was about a month and a half ago, and I spoke about sex education in regards to HIV/AIDS. Some of you might not know this. HIV/AIDS is a very big epidemic in the state of Florida. We actually, it's surprising, it's very surprising. We lead the nation. We are #1 for teenagers under the age of 18 being infected with HIV/AIDS. We're #2 for pediatric AIDS cases, that's babies being born with HIV/AIDS. And we are #1, this should scare all of you, we are #1 for people over the age of 55 contracting and transmitting HIV/AIDS in America. Florida.
Those villages, crazy.
It's funny you say the villages, because as I was saying to her, I spend a lot of time in the villages. I'm going to be back in the villages next week, because I tell people, as you know, it takes a village to elect the first woman president. So I spend a lot of time there. Ann Coulter and Ann Romney, well, I know, they were just there last month promoting their books, so I thought, I'm very well versed on Hillary Clinton. And she wrote a book last year called Hard Choices, so I thought, 3 blondes are better than 2, and let's go ahead and have a Democrat in there to talk about a Democratic woman's book. So next month I will be doing a talk back there as well as their Barnes & Noble. So I'm looking very forward to that. So, of course, good evening to all of you, and thank you so much for being here at your local Democratic Women's Club in Osceola County. For those of you who are new here and are not yet members, especially those of you who are running, I remind you, Democratic women typically always turn out and vote. They do. It is important to join your local Democratic Women's Club. Whether or not you're running for office or whatever it might be, you should join your local DWCF chapter. I'm on the Bureau of Speakers of the Democratic Women's Club for the entire state. Last week I was just in Palm Beach County, which was great. There I had actually been talking about sex education, and I love talking about sex education to seniors. I had one woman that came up to me privately afterwards, and after she told me what she told me, I said, "How old are you?" She said, 72. So this is what she said. She said, "I've had 3 boyfriends this year." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Okay. So what about that?" And she said, "Well, we weren't always safe." And I was like, "How old are you?" She said, "I'm 72. I was like, "Well, you look really good for 72." And I said, "I hope when I'm 72 that I can be as good as you." And it takes a village to do a lot of things, but you can do it down in West Palm Beach too. So I was down in Palm Beach County and Broward County last week talking about HIV/AIDS to both them and some veterans. So, like I said, it's really important to join your local DWCF chapter. I adore them. I probably, out of the 47, almost 50 chapters that we have, I don't know how many were just chartered at the convention in Cocoa Beach this year, but I have probably spoken about 23, 25 of them, all over the place. So, as I was saying, I am Aaron Darr. I'm on the Bureau of Speakers of the Democratic Women's Club of Florida. I previously worked with the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation and the Clinton Foundation with President Clinton and Chelsea Clinton, specifically in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy and how it just devastated the states of New York and New Jersey. I had also worked for a lovely man, I always say with a smile on my face because I always get a lot of reaction when I say former Congressman Anthony Weiner, whom I adore. And I have a lot of respect for him. And I stood by him through that campaign when he ran for mayor. Obviously, did not win, but I believe in loyalty. It goes a long way in politics. So I had worked for him in the past 2 years. After that campaign, that very long campaign, I moved to Florida, and I was the region lead to the Millennial Council for the state of Florida, which served as a fundraising arm of young professionals under the age of 40 for the Super PAC, called Ready for Hillary, which if you haven't heard of it, it's the super PAC that tried as hard as they could, as we all could, to draft Hillary Clinton to run for president. And if you haven't had the TV on today, you would know that Hillary Clinton clearly is running for president of the United States of America. Most of my work is more so in HIV/AIDS. I travel around the state of Florida, I travel around the country, and I also travel internationally as well, speaking about HIV/AIDS, sex education, reproductive health care, which, yes, ladies and gentlemen, includes abortion. And I also speak about, how all of this and AIDS affects various demographics of people based off of their geographical, social acceptance within various cultures, global law and policy, and personal behaviors of those who have a heightened risk of contracting and transmitting HIV/AIDS. Just last month, I'm just giving a little bit of brief information about myself. I actually filed, I'm 24, I filed to run for office myself in Pinellas County. And in doing so, I actually became the first openly HIV positive person in the state of Florida to ever file to run for office. And next November, I'll be the first HIV positive person to ever hold office in the state of Florida. And it's needed. We all have a glass ceiling in life, and we all should try to shatter it. And I will be the 5th person in the entire country elected next year upon, the same election as hopefully Hillary. So, I, of course, believe that HIV/AIDS is the greatest unspoken human rights issue of our time, which is why I've traveled the state of Florida, speaking everywhere from the Villages to West Palm Beach, from Jacksonville to Tampa, from Tallahassee to St. Augustine. I go to the red areas, trust me. They love me there. From Cocoa Beach to St. Petersburg, and from Miami to Newport Richey, and so on. In doing so, I also use my unique perspective on life to advocate for various progressive policies and move forward issues that often are affecting women, children, and working middle-class families, Black and Latino Americans, our veterans, seniors, and of course, the LGBT community. Just last year, I keynoted 2 AIDS conferences in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and another in Paris, France. The topic of HIV/AIDS, of course, was at the forefront of my speeches, but afterwards I received an overwhelming amount of questions of sincere concern from people all over Europe about the gun laws in the state of Florida. That should concern you. People in Amsterdam, I mean, granted, they're pretty liberal in Amsterdam, not so much in Paris, but people over in Europe who, at a sex education conference, wanted to talk to me about Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman, and Stand Your Ground, and why in the world would we ever elect a 3rd Bush as president? So, I'm here to talk to you, of course, about an issue we've heard all too much of as of late. Whether it be Virginia Tech, Aurora, Columbine, Sandy Hook Elementary, Northern Arizona University, Texas Southern University, or Oregon Community College, gun violence is all around us, and it's affecting children, and it is killing children and young people at schools and college campuses all across our country like never before. Just this year, this was an article from The Hill, it was published on October 10th, 52 school shootings in America just this year. That's an average of over 90 Americans killed every day by firearms. And of that 90 Americans, you have 7 out of those 90 Americans that are children. They are babies being robbed of potential, opportunity, and possibility to grow up to be whatever they want to be, but unfortunately they aren't here to do so because we don't implement common sense gun reform measures and try to take head-on mental health evaluations in this country. Just think of that, but 7 children. Again, these are children. 7 children who are killed by gun violence in America, yet we do nothing. Think about it, if this were a disease that were widespread across our entire country, and it were taking 7 innocent lives in front of our eyes every day, you better believe that Democrat or Republican that we would get off of our asses and that we would do something about it. Gun violence and mental health disorders are a disease. They should be treated like that. Gun violence should not be a partisan issue. Democrat or Republican, it can't affect us all. And I say this Democrat to Democrat, even though I'm running for a nonpartisan race, and that's not why I'm here today, so I'm going to use those words, Democrat and Republican, if you watch this video. That Democrat and Republican, we need to make sure that we put at the forefront of both the DNC as well as the state party here in Florida that if there is a Democrat that's out there, they need to push forward progressive policies, and common sense background checks is one of them. They better do that, because if they don't, they will not be getting my vote, and I hope that you will say the same. But whether it be, these mental illness implementations and common sense gun reform that is needed in the United States now more than ever before. whether it be a group of black Americans who were heartlessly killed and they were murdered while in a Bible study at their Baptist church in Charleston, South Carolina, or whether it be the single mom in the state of Ohio who endured domestic violence at the hands of her own husband in front of her children. Violence is all around us, both domestic and gun violence, yet we do nothing. We can't all be Nikki Haley. We can't. The governor of South Carolina, who at the time, and still does today, when I'm talking about what happened in Charleston, South Carolina at that church with those black Americans who were there in their Bible study, and someone in a domestic act of terrorism, because that's exactly what that was. It was a domestic act of terrorism where someone was targeting them because they were black, went in there and murdered those people. But had Nikki Haley and had the other Republicans supported H.R. 1565, which was proposed shortly after Sandy Hook Elementary by the Obama administration, H.R. 1565 would have fixed that. People with mental health issues and a criminal background having those kind of felonies, he never legally would have been able to obtain a firearm. That would have implemented universal background checks on any and all gun sales, and it would have made mandatory. H.R. 1565 would have made mandatory tags that go in and out of gun shows that go on guns. If you go in there with a gun, it's going to get a tag on it. If you go out, it's going to have a tag on it. And if you try to go out and it doesn't have a tag on it, guess what, buddy? You are not taking that gun home with you. In my opinion, this does nothing but actually protect the Second Amendment and protect gun owners to the rights to own and use firearms, whether it be for personal use, collecting, or hunting. But it's a shame. But we do nothing. And this is an issue that we cannot wait. We cannot wait for the next president, or the next Congress, or the next state legislature, or the next governor, Rick Scott, are you listening, to tackle this very important issue. This is a matter of historic importance that will strengthen the safety and well-being of our children and our families if we only act. The time to act is now. This is a horrifying epidemic and human reality for so many all across the state of Florida and all over our country. I want to go into depth a little bit. I know that you guys will be running for the county commission, so please do take notes. Talking about gun violence and domestic violence. I'm going to start with domestic violence because it's very interesting and it's appalling. These are 2014 statistics, mind you. You know, domestic violence in America versus other countries, it happens all over the place. I know that all too well. I was raised by a single mother. The first 8 years of my life, I had a father that physically tormented, beat my mother, my brothers, and myself. So when people often say to me, why do you go talk to all these women? Why do you talk to all these women? Well, I grew up having to fight for women, and I'm never going to stop. You know, there are over 4 million women in America last year, and these were reported cases. These aren't the unreported cases of women who don't have the courage or the opportunity or the safety net to be able to report it to the local law enforcement authority. There are over 4 million American women that reported the instances of being abused by their husbands, boyfriends, fiancés, or male counterparts. And out of those 4 million American women, a majority of them were raped. And out of those 4 million women, 3 million of those women have children. And out of those 3 million children, 60% of those 3 million children were also abused. This is in 2014. This is appalling. When you have my congressman, David Jolly, who is now unfortunately running for United States Senate, who voted against trying to implement the Violence Against Women Act, which was signed in 1994 by President Bill Clinton. That was up for renewal. I don't get why issues that affect women are partisan issues or viewed as progressive or Democrat issues. All issues that affect women are family issues. It is appalling that we don't take this on. This is appalling that we have this in our country today. We look around other countries and we wonder why they're pissed off at us. Oh, don't tell us what to do. Don't tell us that our culture is bad. Don't tell us this, and based off of our religion or our culture, that we can't do this or we can't do that. We need to fix some of the things that we have wrong here at home before we go telling people over in Russia or people over in North Korea what they should or should not be doing and how they should or should not be abusing human rights abuses towards women and girls. We have work to do here at home, and so much of it starts in the state of Florida. America must lead by example because violence against women and children is never okay. But why aren't we talking about these issues? But of course, I was having the conversation with you. The Republicans, rather than trying to fix the economy, because they don't have any plans or ideas to fix the economy, they'd rather do what they say Democrats do too much of. They'd rather regulate. But instead of regulating, government or this branch of government or, funding for budgets, this, that, they'd rather, regulate what women can and cannot do with their own bodies. Because again, they don't have any ideas to fix the economy and get American families and middle-class families and children winning again. So we all have the opportunity to live up to our own God-given potential. That is what they'd rather focus on. And something else they, of course, would rather focus on, especially here in the state of Florida, in the State House and in the State Senate, are guns. As I said, when I was over in Europe, it is appalling. It is disgusting that I had so many people that came up to me, George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin, stand your ground. What's going on? What is going on with this? And it's interesting because I know that we all know this too well, having to have lived through it. I lived in New York City, and the day that the George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin case, the verdict had come out, I was actually ironically at Stonewall. I was out having a good time, and I had found out, and the dramatics were just there. It was raining, I couldn't catch a cab, and if you've been in New York City and it's raining, you know you cannot catch a cab. So I was about 30 minutes from home via subway ride, and I just bawled my eyes out that somebody could get away with murdering a 17-year-old child. That is somebody's baby. I don't care if he's black, I don't care if he's white, I don't care if he's Asian, Latino, Native American, whatever he might have been. That is a child. That is something that feels, that is someone that was loved, that was robbed of an opportunity of ever having the chance to live up to his own God-given potential. And it is unacceptable. Only in the state of Florida, let me say this on video, only in the state of Florida can you get away with murdering a black child because of Stand Your Ground, which was signed into law, but by who else? Governor Jeb Bush. So we need to remember that next time if the Republicans actually are smart enough to nominate him over, the man with the shoulder pads and the pizzazz and all the hair, Donald Trump, that we need to remember what he did in his time as governor of this state and how we are still suffering from the effects of that, and especially how so many of those laws that he signed into law here in the state of Florida, along with those charter schools, how they hurt blacks and minorities in the state of Florida. Again, yes, black lives do matter, but they did not matter to Jeb Bush, and they still don't in 2015 or 2016, regardless of what he is running for. It is disgusting. But this is what's interesting to me. Again, we have a woman, Marissa Alexander, who in this room recalls of that story, fired a warning shot. Well, Stand Your Ground says she was permitted to do that. Her husband, an abuse, police records indicated, and they show many times, suffering, again, from domestic violence at the hands of her own husband, fires a warning shot. She goes to jail. Hand bombing? No, she's going to go to jail. Had that been a white woman, I guarantee you it would have been a different story. She wouldn't have seen the inside of a cell, not once. But we hear so much about domestic violence and gun violence. You have conceal and carry in this state, which is just appalling. We are so much known for that, as well as Georgia and Texas, which also have similar laws. And now they're talking about doing open carry in the state of Florida, which I'm here to tell you, and I hate having to say, it's going to pass.
Don't say that.
It is going to pass. You know why? Because the State House and the State Senate, especially the State Senate, there is a supermajority of Republicans there. They're going to vote for it because they have their hands in the cookie jar. The puppeteer is going, and the puppeteer is the NRA. It's the gun lobby and the special interests that fund their campaigns. And I will tell you, the reason I think Alex Sink lost her special race for the Congressional District 13 seat, which is my seat that David Jolly won over, the NRA was out like never before to get Alex Sink. And she lost that race by only 2,500 votes. When 2 days before, polls have her winning that seat at 7%. But the NRA saw that and they didn't want to nail it. Alex Sink would have kept our schools and our communities and our families safe. David Jolly, unfortunately, doesn't do that, along with the rest of the Republicans who are controlled by the gun lobby, the special interests, and the NRA. But just last year, I was in Tallahassee, as I travel all over the state. I was in Tallahassee in March, lobbying some gun bills. It's disgusting. Please take notes on this, because this is really informative. You have the school safety bill, and if any of you have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, regardless, you should be very appalled at this. The school safety bill, the House bill version of it is House Bill 19. And the Senate bill version of it is 1A, the school safety bill. Very interesting.